Welcome to Akin F2P, the FC mobile king of coin. The correction I called weeks ago is now unfolding exactly as expected. This is the phase where the market stops rewarding hesitation and starts rewarding positioning. Most players will react too late, while smart investors are already reading the structure early. Today, we are locking in on OVR 115 and the first key cycle driving this movement, the market rotation before the next expansion phase begins. No noise, no delay, just pure market direction. Let's move. We now step into the first major trigger in this cycle, the flashback event. This is not just another event drop. This is where the market begins to rotate liquidity and where early positioning starts defining the next wave of profit opportunities. In this phase, I've identified 5 key players you need to keep on your watch list at all times: Gakpo, Fernandez, DePaul, Zielinski, and San Maxima. Now pay attention to how the structure is forming, because this is not random movement. It's controlled behavior driven by supply and demand cycles. We are currently seeing a clear 3-zone pricing structure across these cards. Some are positioning for a drop below 750 million coins. Some are stabilizing around the 800 million zone, and a few are already building strength above 900 million coins. This is not chaos, this is controlled distribution before demand fully activates. But within this group, profit movement will not be equal. There is a clear hierarchy forming based on in-game demand, position value, and meta relevance. The first player expected to lead the movement is San Maxima. His price reaction is likely to come first due to strong in-game performance demand and high attacking usability. Explosive attackers usually move first in any cycle. The second wave is expected from Gakpo. His attacking position and consistent performance potential make him a strong secondary mover once momentum builds. Then we move into the midfield structure, DePaul and Fernandez. These two are expected to generate steady but strong profit expansion. The key factor is their Argentina nationality link, which increases their demand in meta-squad formations. The same applies to Zielinski. His midfield role gives him stable demand and balanced formations, meaning slower movement but consistent value growth. So, the structure is clear. Attackers lead volatility, midfielders sustain value, and demand flows in phases, not all at once. Your job is to keep these players on your watch list and study their movement closely. You are tracking supply behavior and demand absorption, not just price. The real confirmation comes when the market shifts from heavy supply pressure into consistent demand strength. That is your signal that positioning becomes valid. Once you enter any of these assets, discipline becomes the difference between average profit and elite execution. The rule is simple. Once you secure 300 million coins profit or more, start scaling out and locking in gains progressively. No hesitation, no greed cycle. Because in this phase of the market, the real edge is not just entry, it is controlled exit, under demand strength. We now transition into the next phase of the cycle, the top duos event. This event operates differently from the previous one. Instead of broad distribution, we're now seeing selective value concentration. Fewer cards leading, but with stronger and more aggressive movement once demand steps in. In this cycle, these are the 5 players you need to track closely: Osimhen, Mbeumo, Marcos Llorente, Grimaldo, and Yıldız. Within this group, 2 players stand out immediately. The first, and most important, is Yıldız. What makes this card unique is the current undervaluation. Seeing his price below the 800 million coin range is not a sign of weak demand, it's a temporary market inefficiency. Once demand begins to build and buying pressure becomes consistent, his price is expected to recover strongly and enter a full expansion phase. This is not a short-term trade. This is a high-conviction position. And the target is clear: 600 million coins, profit or more, before you begin securing gains. The key with Yıldız is precision and timing. You keep him on your watch list, you track the shift in demand, and the moment you see consistent buying activity, you secure your position early. The second priority pick is Mbeumo. His value comes from positional demand and strong in-game performance. Cards like this don't always move first, but when they do, they move with stability and follow-through. He fits well into meta-attacking setups, making his demand more reliable and less volatile. The rest of the group, Osimhen, Marcos Llorente, and Grimaldo, remain strong investment options. They may not lead the movement, but they follow once demand strengthens, providing consistent opportunities across the cycle. Across this event, the structure remains clear. Most of these cards are expected to approach strong entry levels around the 690 million coin range before becoming optimal investments. So the strategy stays disciplined. You observe, you track, you wait for confirmation. The moment you see consistent buying activity entering the market, that is your signal to act. For most of these players, your baseline target is 400 million coins profit before scaling out. But for Yildiz, this is a different level of opportunity. With patience and correct execution, this is where you position for 600 million coins profit or more within a single cycle. Because in this phase of the market, success is not about speed, it's about precision, timing, and control. We now move into the next phase, the Future Stars event. This event introduces a different market dynamic. Instead of immediate reaction, we're expecting a more gradual setup before strong demand begins to build. In this cycle, these are the four primary players you need to focus on: Francisco Conceição, Uzun Mbappe, and Luna. Now, the pricing structure across this group is not uniform, and that's where most investors lose precision. Some of these cards are expected to drop below the 700 million coin range before becoming strong entry opportunities. Others will stabilize and become viable around 800 million coins, and a few will only present clear value closer to the 900 million range, depending on how demand develops. This is why rushing entries in this phase becomes inefficient. The strategy here is observation and control. You keep all these players on your watch list, and you monitor their supply behavior closely. You are not just watching price, you are tracking how supply reduces and how demand begins to step in. The key signal remains the same. When supply starts drying up and the market begins showing clear demand absorption, that is when positioning becomes valid. At that point, execution should be immediate and disciplined. And once you enter, profit protection becomes critical. The moment the market gives you your margin, you secure your gains without hesitation. Now, there is one additional player you cannot ignore in this cycle: Chiesa. Do not overlook this card. He may not be part of the primary structure, but his potential to move under demand pressure makes him a high-value opportunity. This is not a player you hesitate on. When the signal appears, you act. We now shift into one of the most important structures in this cycle, where the market starts separating short-term hype from long-term value. This phase is defined by stability, recognition, and sustained demand buildup, the UCL event. In this phase, focus on Alvarez, Bellingham, De Jong, Gyökeres, and Oblak. All five represent strong investment opportunities, but timing remains the key factor. Their prices are expected to drop below 700 million coins first, before reaching optimal entry zones. Once that drop occurs and buying activity begins to build, that is your confirmation phase. Each of these players has the potential to generate 300 million coins plus profit, with Oblak clearly standing out as the strongest long-term play, capable of giving you 600 million coins profit or more over time. So the structure is simple. Wait for the drop, confirm demand, enter early, secure profit without hesitation. That's the cycle. We now move into the final phase of the day, the Capped Legends event. This is where I separate hype from real value. Established cards, strong reputation, and consistent demand patterns define this stage of the market. In this cycle, my top 5 focus players are Muslera, Pedro, Shaqiri, Suarez, and Mané. All 5 carry solid profit potential, but I will narrow this down to my top 3 conviction picks based on structure, demand behavior, and entry zones. My number 1 pick is Mané. If I see him drop below the 700 million coin range, that becomes a clear accumulation zone. No hesitation. From there, the market has potential to push him toward 1.5 billion coins over time, making this the highest upside position in this event. My second pick is Muslera. Goalkeepers move differently. They are driven by stability and positional demand. If he reaches the 700 million coin range, that is a structured entry zone for consistent profit growth. My third pick is Suarez. This is a discipline play. The key here is timing. Once I see buying pressure entering the market, I position immediately and secure exposure before momentum expands. The rest, Pedro and Shaqiri, remain solid secondary options, but the focus stays on timing and confirmation rather than over-diversification. The strategy across this event is simple. I wait for value zones. I monitor supply exhaustion. I track demand entry. Then I execute without hesitation, because in this market I don't chase price. I position before movement, and once I'm in profit, I secure gains with discipline. No emotion, no hesitation. That's how consistent growth is built. Thanks for watching. If you're new here, make sure you like and subscribe. You're now part of the Billionaires Club, where we don't guess the market. We read it and move ahead of it.